All right, so number one, it asks for us to find the missing terms in the geometric sequence, which means there's a common multiplier, or as we call it, there's a common ratio. So to get this first missing term, we would have to multiply -4 times r. Then we would multiply this unknown term times r to get the next unknown term. And then we would multiply by r one more time to get that third unknown term. And then we would complete the cycle by multiplying by r one more time to get -324. So this tells us this first number in the sequence is -4, and we have to multiply it by r 4 times, or r to the fourth, to get the fifth term in this sequence, -324. And essentially, this is always the setup. We take the first number, multiply it by r. R is always going to be one more than the number of blanks. So if I had 6 empty blanks, then it would be r to the 7th. And now this is pretty straightforward. Divide both sides by -4. We get r to the 4th equals 81. Take the 4th root of both sides. Should know the 4th root of 81, but if you don't, there is a button, math number 5, on the calculator. Math number 5. That'll do 4th roots for you. And you can get the answer is 3. But remember, the question said find the missing terms. So instead of multiplying by r, we're going to multiply by 3. -4 times 3 is -12. -12 times 3 is -36. -36 times 3 is -108. And -108 times 3 gives you -324. That's how we know we've done it correctly there. Question number 2, it just wants us to find the 12th term. Again, this is assuming you've watched the video. It's a pretty simple formula. It's a sub 1, which we know is -3, times the common ratio. I always like to put the common ratio in parentheses, and 12 is the position of the term we're trying to find. Substitute that in the calculator to get your final answer there. Really, the main thing I want to focus on are the geometric series problems. I'm going to avoid using the geometric series formula. So if you watched the video and understood that formula, feel free to continue to use it. If it didn't make a lot of sense to you, I'm going to show you an alternate way to solve these problems. So I'm going to use the geometric sequence formula and sigma notation, which you should have watched a video on already, instead of the series formulas. And what this allows me is basically I can forego 2 of the formulas. This unit's filled with them, and if I can cut out a couple formulas, that's going to be helpful. The sigma notation says we're going to take every term of the sequence, and you'll notice it tells us there's 7 terms. So we're adding 7 numbers together. So we're adding the first number. So I'm going to put a 1 down here, my lower bound. My upper bound is n equals 7. And then I'm going to use the geometric sequence formula. And I'm going to write it out on the right-hand side here of the summation notation here. So a sub 1 in this problem, of course, is just 2 times my common ratio, which is obviously 3, raised to the n minus 1 power. So now what this notation, of course, does is it's going to take this first number, it's going to plug 1 in for n, and it would ultimately get 2. And then it takes the next number. Then it's going to take 2 and plug it in for n. And that would give you, of course, 6. And then it's going to keep doing that, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way to positive 7 until it gets all 7 terms, and then you're able to add them together. But of course, there's a calculator shortcut to typing all of this in. The other video should have gone through this, but it is math, and you can go to 0 right there, math 0, and then you just type it in. Instead of n, I always use x just because it's a little bit easier to type in. Trickiest part is typing in the formula here on the right hand side. And then you can see it gives us the sum. Evaluate means find the sum. The sum of the first 7 terms of this series is 2,186. This may seem longer, but in my experience, this is actually a quicker way to do these problems. And then also you don't have to memorize quite as many formulas. So same thing here. We'll do this one quicker. So set up your sigma. So I'm going to go n equals 1 to positive 7 because we're trying to find the sum of the first term all the way to the 7th term. And then my formula is a sub 1, which is negative 2. The common ratio is negative 1/2 raised to the n minus 1 power. And basically you typed in the calculator exactly like we did question 3. And then finally question number 5, we'll do this one. It gives you 2 terms in a geometric sequence, so it gives you a sub 3. It does not give you the 4th term, does not give you the 5th term, but it does give you the 6th term, 972. So this is really similar to the first problem we worked out. We're just multiplying each empty blank by r. There's 2 empty blanks, which means there's going to be 3 r's. So there's the setup. The first number times r to the 3rd equals the last number. Divide both sides by negative 36. I don't know that off the top of my head. We get negative 27, but I do know negative 27 is a perfect cube. Remember, if you don't know that, math number 4, but the cube root of negative 27 is negative 3. So that's our common ratio. So remember, the question asked for the 12th term. You could figure out the first term from here and then use the explicit formula. But to me, this one would be much quicker. We're almost to the 12th term already. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to multiply each term by negative 3 until I get my answer. And the calculator can actually do this pretty quickly. You do it once and you get the next number, which you don't really have to write out. And you can do it one more time. Oops. To get 8748, the 8th term. And then you can keep hitting enter. You don't have to do times negative 3. So that number is the 9th term. Hit enter again. 78,000 is the 10th term. One more time. There's the 11th term. And then finally, and of course I messed it up. There it is. A lot of different ways to do that problem. To me, this is the easiest and the quickest.